Lot of great transfers for Michigan State this spring cycle. So what are we going to do? We're going to rank them. Our top three with Al Karsten, and then what is he looking forward to the most for Michigan State in year one with the new offense under Brian Lindgren? Let's find out.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below who your favorite spring transfer portal target pickup has been so far, or hit us up, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. Now, it's not just me rambling on and on this show. No. We are joined by a great football mind, a wonderful follow on Twitter at football guy _Al. It's Al Karsten. And man, taking football away from Al Karsten would be like taking sun and water away from a blossoming flower. This man is football. Al, how on earth we doing here in the dead of the offseason? We hanging in there so far?
Buddy, yeah, I mean, it's nonstop, right? How many portals are opening? She, Hansel and Gretel. I'm excited to leave some beneficial breadcrumbs for your audience here and just chit-chat some football with you, man.
No doubt about it. We've been talking up and down about the portal all off season. Yesterday, we talked about how highly ranked they are. 24/7 Sports has meant number 11. But guys, I might have even been selling them short because the fine folks over at Rivals, they're even higher on the transfer portal class for Michigan State. They have our Spartans at number 7 overall in the nation. Any way you slice it, MSU, Jonathan Smith, they've been doing a fantastic job in this offseason. A lot of roster turnover, have added a lot of talent. So naturally, one of the old famous tropes that content creators like to do is, dang it, Al, we're going to rank some people. That's right. It's been too long since we've just climbed up that tree, but here we go. We're each going to give our top 3 spring portal pickups so far. So no Aidan Chiles, no Jack Velling, none of that. All spring pickups. Now, Al did give me his top 3. I have 2 of the same, so Al will be doing most of the talking here, but I will let my different one out in due time. But Al, go ahead, bat lead off. Who you got for number 3? Let's go 3-1 here.
Let's go 3-1. Okay, and I was going to organically transition to the next segment with 3, but here we are with Kron Lynch-Adams, the UMass running back. What an underrated, just a 5'10", 210-pound battering ram who transferred around from Rutgers, transferred around to Temple. Matt, if I told you he was top 6 in both missed tackles forced and 10-plus yard runs last year, 6 with 74 missed tackles and 41 10-plus yard rushes, would you be surprised?
After you say it, no. I mean, but that is a metric Michigan State did not do well in last year, 10-plus yard rushes. So that's answering the call. That's
just churning out chunks, and I think that's part of what we want for this offense. That guy breaks tackles, he fights forward, he gets positive yards, he puts us in good situations ahead of the sticks, not falling behind the sticks, which I know our fans are very used to. I think he's just such a good complementary pair with Nate Carter because, as we've seen in the past with some of these Johnny Smith's, Brian Lindgren offenses, they like a 2-headed monster. Since they had Jamar Jefferson in 2020, it's been Deshaun Fenwick and someone else, starting with B.J. Baylor, who was an awesome battering ram in 2021. And then as of late, they've also had Damian Martinez. So we are going to build from the ground up, from the front, from the trenches, and we are going to ground and pound, both with our zone and gap scheme. So I'm really excited for him. The one adjustment for Kron Lynch-Adams is he ran about 60% of the time, 70% of the time gap zone running, or gap-based running, and then 30% zone. We're going to run a little bit more zone than he's accustomed to, but he had some really good metrics for zone.
And that's something that Jonathan Smith said early on in his press conferences here at Michigan State is that, look, we are going to establish physical football, establish the run, all the cliches that, hey, us State fans know and love. Like, we found that to be very successful in our golden days here. And that kind of a pickup really matches what he is talking about. I mean, Nate Carter, like I for one think he's a solid running back. I don't think he got much help at all last year, whether it was predictable play calling, offensive line play, or just the other myriad of issues going on. Nevertheless, strong running back, but man, Kron Lynch-Adams, that's your RB2? Wow. Okay.
And I don't know if he got a lot of help I don't know if he got much help with the UMass offensive line or play callers last year either. For what he did to have, 1,200 yards, he had over 100 against Auburn. He had over 150 against Toledo, which is one of the better MAC defenses. So I'm really excited to see what he does with a competent play caller and maybe a really good offensive line coach that's developing, Newman and Miller and some of those guys up front.
And so the next two guys are both guys that I have in my top three. I'll let my, stray one probably to start next segment. Nevertheless, you're on a roll, Al. Who is number two favorite spring portal pickup for our Spartans here?
It's a recent one, and two and one go kind of hand in hand in just the makeshift defensive backfield. I am going the third year to be Nikai Martinez from UCF, and he started as a true sophomore last year. And God, was he productive. He played all over the place on 731 snaps, 320 in the box as a box safety, 197 back deep as a free safety, 165 in the slot, and he even got 32 snaps wide corner. They could move him anywhere they wanted. He was really highly graded by PFF among coverage grade for Big 12 safeties. And I mean, he comes from a pipeline school, Apopka, and it was also a winning program. He went to the state semis or the state championship each year. And I mean, just watching his commitment video back in the day to Gus Malzahn, he named every single football coach he's ever had, head football coach and secondary coach. Like he just seems like a very intelligent kid who loves football. I'm excited for him. And I mean, I'm very also excited to see how the whole defensive backfield shakes out, where we're going to place people, in accordance with Dylan Tatum, Blake Spencer, Angelo Gross. But Blue Adams is going to make it work.
That was where I was going to take the conversation next. Is like with a guy like Martinez, a guy like, just like you said, he could play basically all 11 positions on defense. I'm sure he could play some 3 technique if you really asked him to, if he was bored. But like, I wonder if that slots him into nickel, or does that let Malik Spencer play some nickel? I don't know. Like, this is all speculation. We might not even get a clear picture until the season kicks off against FAU. But hey, versatile, and experienced too. Like that really, really bodes well for Michigan State. So I absolutely love that for number 2. Al, I'll give you a drum roll here. Number 1, who is bringing home the gold for the best portal pickup in the spring so far? Who you got for us?
Ed Woods.
Let's go.
Cornerback, Arizona State, the most experienced, the best size. I mean, he visited Alabama and then went to us. If you listen to the quotes from Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham after he left, he had to be honest with the reporting. I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah.
It was kind of strange. I'm not laughing at Arizona State, but they have allowed over 31 points per game the last 2 years. Maybe it finally just clicked that the world of the toxic world of portal and NIL, and then just some of the unknowns without the structure. We don't know why people are transferring. We've had people leave after spring practice. He was there after spring practice. He was obviously going to be a starter. But we scooped. The fact that we beat out Alabama for him, I mean, this is by far the best defensive backfield transfer we have gotten in the transfer portal era. I am so jonesed about him, man. And he even has good metrics in zone coverage. He was the 7th best rated cornerback in the whole Pac-12 last year. God, this was an impact guy. And I know we got some other cornerback and guys that came in the portal, but maybe that's depth in 2025. I'm really excited about Ed Woods, next to maybe Chance Rucker or Chuck Brantley and Aid Willie, Caleb Coley. But I think he could lock down number 1 from the second he steps in East Lansing.
Yeah, definitely a point of concern with Michigan State the last few years. That's not breaking any news. But, hey, I mean, they also got Legend Cavazos. They got Jeremiah Hughes. I mean, Hughes is more on the younger end. But, yeah, what you get with Woods is instant impact guy. A lot of the pickups so far this spring are guys that were patching up holes of roster mismanagement from the last regime. All right. But hey, Ed Woods, for the position group that arguably needed it the most this upcoming season, just like you said, Al, Kenny Dillingham, the head coach of Arizona State, he was very candid. He said, that wasn't supposed to happen. That transfer did not come across my little desk over here. So it's nice to pluck a power 4 starter away from another school. So love that for number 1. I also had Nikai Martinez at number 2, and I'll let everyone know number 3. Talk about a thrilling cliffhanger here, Al. I'm sure everyone is just waiting with bated breath right now. But first, you need to talk to people's ears off about eBay Motors. Now, Al, do you want to do this ad read or me? Because you're the one that guessed that I would be doing eBay Motors before we started recording. Who's doing this one?
I wouldn't put my muffler on it that I know word for word, so you go for it.
All right, fair enough. I'll move you to the bench then. I'm sorry. I'll see you in a little bit here, though, Al, because, folks, passion, drive, and patience, it is the winning formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, mufflers, just like Al was saying, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And best of all, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or it's your hard-earned money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. The one, the only Al Karsten, still back in the mix here. Again, guys, football guy _Al on Twitter. Criminal. I mean, you got like a few thousand followers. That is still incredibly low. You are just all things football, whether it's Michigan State or, hey, for us MSU Lions fans out there, Al loves himself some Detroit Lions, so go give him a follow over there. Al, I'm going to throw you on the hot seat right now. Who do you think is my number 3 guy of the spring portal season? I know there's a whole list of names, of course, but who do you think I'm going to utter here?
I think it's my first honorable mention, Andrew Dennis.
That is a fantastic one because he is on the honorable mention list. I mean, let's be honest. Everyone's on the honorable mention list in some way or another. But I'm going Big Worm here, only because of the nickname. The nickname's the only reason. No, I'm kidding. Look, this is kind of one of those things where it helps an issue right now while also figuring out something, a position that had a problem with the roster management for the future here. We've said it 100 times in last week. Mel Tucker, they didn't really recruit interior offensive linemen. Just 2 kids committed in 2021, 2022, 2023. One of them was Derek Harmon. He ain't going to be here. So after seeing these guys leave to Quan Dowse, Maverick Hansen, that's going to be an empty room. So you get Big Worm. Very limited playing time, of course, for Oregon, but former 4-star, playing behind some great talent over there in Eugene, as we all know. This is a guy that, will he start immediately this year? I'm going to assume no. But with his pedigree and with the opportunities that could present themselves this upcoming year, let's not kid ourselves, that could be a guy that is instant impact. So I like it for, first and foremost, the nickname, Big Worm. His government name is Ben Roberts. I guess I should say that too. And then, just the position of need. So I'm getting wormy over here, Al. That's my number 3 guy. But, I mean, so many good other candidates for a top 3 list.
I don't know if the old staff got a memo that they just couldn't recruit high school players in the whole spine of the freaking defense between defensive tackle and linebacker, but it had been bothering me for years. So I am pumped about Big Worm, and I'm pumped. I mean, he was starting at nose tackle for them in the spring, but he can also play 3 technique. So behind Hansen and Dowse and whether it's Jalen Satchel, the other spring ODU guy, and maybe Dunnigan kicking inside on passing downs as a 3 technique, something we could see. Big Worm is going to play over 300 snaps. He is going to matter in October, November, in the trenches. I love that pick.
No, it's absolutely sensational. So to flip it to the other side of the field here, Al, on Twitter, you've been dropping clips. You have been nose deep into the offense of what Brian Lindgren, Jonathan Smith, they are bringing over. I'm going to keep the question simple. I'm going to keep it broad. Just when you watch the Oregon State offense from years ago, what gets you most excited for this fall coming off?
I'm so excited. I'm almost scared for your audience and for you, for me to explain how significant of an improvement it is for a competent scheme. I do think I'm going to be opening wounds. I think they're going to be wandering up. Maybe you'll wander to Little Caesars. You know the people by name. You'll be talking to workers, mumbling about Jay Johnson. Like, it is a stark contrast. It is a very, very competent scheme that it's from the foundation. It's the play design. It's the play sequencing. And foundationally, every play is built off of each other. You can run plays from multiple formations. It is just not the word predictable came up a lot when I'm watching them, and I was starting to get I kept getting angry, excited. Right. But you cannot predict if it's pass or run on any down and distance, any formation. And I mean, especially under center, they really do pass on first downs, sometimes even without play action. and run a quick slant or whatever it be, or maybe they stretch the field. They run a lot of 9 routes. It is just really alarming how cool it is. It reminds me a little bit more of Ben. It has some Ben Johnson flavor to it. It has, so Lions fans will be used to that. Just the way he builds and sets up plays in game to take a shot, to get the defense to creep in, which is also some Sean McVay aspects there. And the way that Sean McVay was able to, structurally have their identity shift from zone to gap this past year. I think it's something that our offensive staff is really comfortable in. So we will be running a little bit more zone offense, but we also are gap schemed. That's where it starts. Like we will be able to go 13, 12, 22, 21 personnel where we have multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, and a fullback on the field. And yes, we'll be able to, run it up their throats, but what they do with some of that stuff is they're just creating more gaps to spread out the defense. And they do this with some of the condensed sets with the bunch and the stack. The linebackers now and then the defensive linemen have to manage for 2 gaps. There's now 10 gaps on the field where we could run our outside zone or up the middle. And there's just more avenues for our running game to pulverize them. That's where it all starts. I mean, they had 2 offensive line out of their 3 captains last year. They had 2 offensive line captains. That's where it matters. That's where Jim Mihalchek is a real offensive line coach that's really going to develop our guys. And we're going to get, it's just, I'm very excited. I could talk, we could do a 3-hour podcast on how excited I am about this offense.
I need to start fanning myself off over here. Like that's so like you answered a question that I wanted to bring up here too. And it was like, will I be able to predict 80% of the play calls like we were able to last year? Because if just some idiot that is soaked with Fireball on game days that just barks into a microphone can predict with 80% accuracy the play calls coming up, what do you think the players and the coaches on the other side are going to do? So it sounds like, hey, Brian Lindgren actually mixes it up. What? That's unthinkable here in East Lansing. Oh God, I hate it.
It is by far the most modern pro style offense with some philosophies that are old Big Ten, rooted in some Big Ten physical standpoint. But no, it's not predictable because we are gap and zone running foundation, and we can go those heavy personnel. I mean, he had a fullback, a defensive tackle on 50 snaps last year. They have a lot of H-backs. They'll do 2 tight ends.
Gotcha.
My big thing is, how previously someone had stated that the tight end was the MVP of this offense?
Yeah.
This might actually be the freaking case. The
Wow.
way they use the tight ends with some of the cross back motion, it'll remind you of how we use Sam Laporta and the Lions, that is, and Brock Wright, and use the crossbuck. Like, there is so much window dressing for the linebackers and the defense to have to focus on. It is not it's just not predictable. It really gets me going. And like Ben Johnson, some of those condensed sets from bunch stack, sometimes inverted, like we'll do with Jack Velling, is it gives you a free release. Our guys are not, they're going to be in motion, or they're going to be in a bunch or a stack where they're behind the line of scrimmage and they're able to get a free release. So they're able to get open and we're not getting jammed, because something that happened with Oregon State, which maybe it changed with Nick Marsh, is they had a lot of smaller, stout wide receivers, 5'9" guys the last couple of years, with Anthony Gould, Silas Bolden, Champ Fleming's great 5'9" slot wide receiver name. Jonathan Smith almost had to adapt with these shorter guys to get them off line of scrimmage, and it made them more creative. But really quick, I just want to list off some of the plays we might see.
Please.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, my God, keep going, man. Yeah.
So starting the Utah game, they went 5 wide, which again, this is a pro style offense, so they're capable of going big, but they also will go, the typical 11 personnel, the very predictable 11 personnel. And they run a lot of RPOs and stuff. They went a 5 wide quarterback power to start it for 8 yards against Utah. One of the things they really thrive in, as I mentioned, is the play action game, because it builds off the run game, because the defense is cheating. It makes them think for a second. They're half a yard off the play action rollout. We're going to get Aidan Chiles on the move. He's going to get loose early in the game, and he's going to have windows, actual structural windows that make sense, from 1 to 2 to 3 on his play action rollout. So he'll have good passing windows, whether it's the rollout, some of those naked boots, but also the tight end leaks. They're sneaky. I'm going to be tweeting some more of these, the tight end leaks, where it's actually the play action side when they're booting and they run back to the opposite side, and the tight end all of a sudden's wide open. The defense, nobody's covering him. They did it with an offensive tackle screen. Sometimes they'll play action and do a tunnel screen to the opposite side to the wide receiver just to get 6 yards to just continually stretch the defense horizontally while you're also ramming down their throat. There's a reason Dylan Tatum said that the offensive line looked explosive in the spring. When have you heard that? What does that mean? The offensive line is explosive. They're getting downhill.
Been a while.
I know. Just a lot to be excited about. I can't wait.
That play action you're talking about, like, does that kind of harken back to the days of the 2013 Big Ten championship game where Josiah Scott, he's just all alone in the end zone in the corner by himself because everything rolled out to the right, but he's just over there.
He's over to the left. He was lead
essentially in his own zip code to the left. I mean, God, that was a beautiful play. A single tear comes to my eye whenever I think about that play.
Sheesh, man.
Beautiful.
You nailed it, man.
It was
you absolutely nailed. That's exactly what it is. It's just well-designed tight end leaks that are high percentage throws, and it makes the defense have to account for everything.
Right.
They're constantly in a bind. We are putting our guys in a position to succeed while the defense is 2 steps slow because they're thinking about 2 different things they're responsible for. It's going to be impressive.
If I could just rattle off some offensive stats here, and this is to either, shine up Brian Lindgren, Jonathan Smith, the Oregon State staff, or kind of remember how low the bar is coming into this year. Al, last year, Oregon State, 35th in the country at points per game. They had 31.8 points per game. MSU, guys, if you want a nice reminder here.
131st.
131st, and at a smooth 15.1 points per game. My God, as if losing wasn't bad enough last year. It was just the way they lost. And look, even the year prior with 2 NFL receivers, Jaden Reed and Keon Coleman, as we all know, they were just 91st in the country at points per game. I'm going to just rattle off through these numbers too here. 10-plus yard pass plays. Oregon State was 28th in the country. They had 133 such plays. Michigan State, 93rd with 95 plays. 20-plus yard pass plays. Oregon State, 21st. They were top 25 in that metric with 53 of those plays. MSU, a smooth 105th in the country. They only had 31 pass plays that went 20-plus yards. And just for one more, just to really put the cherry on top, 30-plus yard pass plays. Oregon State, 34th, so top 35 in the country. MSU, a smooth 104th in the country with just 14 of those. Again, I just want to reiterate that just to kind of set the table and just maybe show how drastically different things can be. And just to remind everyone of the dire times here. But, do you think that this offense is something that can just hit the ground running in year one? Obviously, it will get better once recruiting and transfers pick up. But even just the baseline they have right now with the transfer they have right now and the guys on the roster right now, do you think that fundamentally this is just an offense that could just go right off the bat?
I think Aidan Chiles will need some growing pains. I think we're going to have to be a little patient.
Okay.
Because I think he's still going to have to get comfortable in the pocket and with processing. We're going to get him the easy answers. We're going to get him easy buttons to press. We're going to get him involved so he's not nervous. He doesn't have butterflies. We're going to let him get loose. But I think he'll be better in November than he will, obviously, in September and October. There's a gauntlet that's lying ahead. So I just think it's what is he those last 4 games should be our biggest takeaway. What kind of pedestal are we putting him on? Because I think it'll be really exciting to end the year. I think we're going to get hopefully bowl eligible so we can get that bowl practice. I think we're going to have to be patient. There will be, realistically, we're all excited about his talent. We're excited about his speed and he is by far the most talented quarterback that Jonathan Smith has had. The things that Jonathan Smith was doing with Chance Nolan and Jake Luton and DJU, it's absurd. And we already like to stretch the field. God, we've got the best arm he's ever had. He already likes to run in the quarterback well. He's the most skilled rusher. So I do think we're going to see a lot of highs, but we will see some lows. He might make mistakes. He might eat a handful of sacks in some games where it starts to get away from him. I think we need to be honest about that. But, as you said, We averaged 16 points per game last year. Okay. We averaged 4.2 yards per play, 4.2 yards per. LSU was averaging over 8 yards per play. That's twice as much. LSU was averaging 43 points per game. LSU was averaging 4 more touchdowns than us per game. Is that the same sport? What are we? I just think it's going to be an improvement from last year for sure. I think if we can get to 28 points per game, let's be top 50 in the nation in points per game. Let's be 5.5 yards per play. Let's be just top 50.
Yes.
I think that is a very safe, and it'll be exciting for us to watch.
I think we see eye to eye on expectations here because, like, I'm not going to call it's like a civil war between me and the listeners, but a few listeners have said, hey, like, I think you should be a little more positive about this team because we talk about, the depth issues. We talk about, hey, you know what? I think 7-5 is a realistic goal or expectation for this team. And there's some that think it should be a lot higher. So I'll ask you, just so I'm not stuck in my own vacuum here, like whether it be record or however you want to, classify this, what is your expectation for Michigan State? Because I feel like 6, 7-5, like isn't just what I think they should be. I think that would actually, as weird as it sounds, like that would be a success under year one of a rebuild. Are you a little more higher than I am, or where are you at here?
No, I think we're right on the same page.
Okay.
I think, two of my friends, Josh and Curtis, and I, we did slam the 5.5 win total over before it went back down.
Bummer. Yeah.
We were kind of just having a lot of Kool-Aid that day. We were just getting pumped about Aidan Chiles, and then it went back down. Yeah. So I'm still confident in the 5.5 wins. I'm on the same page. It's 6 to 7 wins. I think that's realistic. We obviously know there are some definitive losses that just from a roster standpoint, roster depth, talent standpoint, it's going to be too hard to compete, upset the Oregons, Ohio States of the world. But yeah, I mean, Rutgers is at home, right? Iowa's at home. I think some of those toss-up games we win, and especially as long as the offensive line stays healthy, there's not a ton of depth there. That's going to make or break. And then again, maybe Vegas, maybe those little dumplings in the desert are factoring that in. But I think as long as we stay healthy there, and God, we've got a better offensive line coach than we've had ever. Like it's going to be incredible. I do think we should start to see us win at the line of scrimmage.
Do you think we're due for a year without horrific injury luck? Because against Penn State, I think Harlan Barnett was looking up in the stands for us to come down and play some offensive line at the end of the season.
I was going to be the 6th offensive lineman.
It was not looking good, dude. Like it has just looked like it hasn't been good. It's looked like a graveyard last few years as far as injuries go. Like the pendulum has to swing. Just math alone has to swing in the right direction, right? And that's why I keep saying, like, if Michigan State stays relatively healthy, that's Aidan Chiles stays on his feet for all 12 games, the offensive line is fine. If you're relatively healthy, I think over 4.5 wins should absolutely be the expectation. I mean, just God, you're a numbers guy. Math has got to say that MSU is just due for one of these good luck injuries.
I think we are. Come on. We should be due. We should, the support staff should be able to help us. For some odd reason, I have more confidence in Jonathan Smith and his staff to be able to evaluate some of the non-coaching support staff than maybe our previous regime was at a competence in deciding on coaching or support staff talent. So yeah, I think Jonathan Smith has proven multiple places that as far as offense, he has an excellent system that he knows really well because he can evaluate what talent he gets his system. He can evaluate what talent matches his system. Boom. And he can develop that talent. That's threefold. That I think Aidan Chiles ceiling, we don't know. It could get us to 8-9 wins. But I think his floor with his talent and the floor of this offense and the coaching staff, including Lindgren, Wozniak, but all those guys, the offensive line that should get us 6 wins as long as Joe Rossi is able to bring, competence again. Let's be a top 75 defense. I'm not asking for a ton.
Yeah, a lot of the C word being used this offseason. Competence is the official word here of Locked On Spartans for this football offseason. Al, this has been a great chat. It has been way too long since we've had you on. I cannot apologize enough, not just to you, but for all the listeners and viewers, because that was an incredible chat here, man. Hopefully we will be able to drag you back on here time and time again. But what are you doing after this? Are you hopping on Locked On Packers, or what's going on for you the rest
I'm
of the
going to yell
night
at Pete Bukowski.
just chop it off. But no, really, man. Anything else you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week here?
No, just my Twitter account. I'll be on Woodward Heavyweights on Thursday, talking Lions. And other than that, hopefully you and I, every time I listen to you, I'm the third person. Either if you're having Tyler Higbee on or
Sure.
the split zone duo guys, I'm the third person in my head talking through. So thanks for not just being an imaginary friend this time. I appreciate you letting me come on. Hopefully we get to do this again sometime, Matt.
Oh, dude, absolutely. That was a great chat, and I know everyone's going to want to hear from you sooner than later. But hey, folks, until then, you already know it. We will be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Spartans. We do this 5 days a week. Until then, though, hey, love you all. Enjoy yourselves. Go Green.